All right, we are getting into the heart of earnings season. Typically, around this time during earnings season, we get a lot of questions about how to trade earnings reports. We're going to give you a few hints today on some of our favorite strategies when it comes to earnings season and how to play them off of the news, guys. It's a trader's favorite time of year, and it's earnings season.
Yeah, I mean, especially nowadays when the volatility is just so intense into the market, right? And I think that's really going to be one of my tips here, is to understand not just the stock that you're trading, but also the environment that you're in, right? And if you're in one of these environments where the market just wants to basically puke to the downside and doesn't seem to have too much strength, you really need to trade the companies that are the number one companies and the blue chip names in their business. So I'm going to talk about AAL today. AAL came out with an absolutely great report, I thought anyways. Their Q1 adjusted loss, 1.51 billion, versus 2.74 billion. These are losses, but they still lost 1.5 billion. And their earnings per share, they had minus 2.32 versus what it was expected, minus 4.34. So again, they had what I thought was going to be great earnings, but when you really dig down, they're still losing money. And in this environment, you really have to change up some of the strategies there and say, hey, you know what? I don't want to go long even if they come out with a good report. We had Tesla today up 10% at the highs, now down to 4%. And here's a perfect example of my AAL trade right here. I mean, look what happens. We think it's a good trade. AAL comes in today. Look at this move to the upside. AAL was up 10% today. And if we call up a daily chart for AAL, I'm thinking here, great report, right? Great report. They've come out now and they've hit it out of the park. And now we're going to start to head upside. Even a possibility of a break of this 22 on the daily chart. So right there, thinking we're going to break that level. It was a great report. Outsized everybody else. You come in today up 10%, right? It was up more today than when Delta reported, than when UAL reported. But look what happens to American Airlines. Again, a weak company, not performing, not even profitable. They even mentioned that they're looking to turn profitable next quarter. But guess what? That's next quarter. So what happens here today is AAL, despite coming into some levels, it actually doesn't wind up holding any levels whatsoever. If we find the 20-minute chart here on AAL, we thought that, hey, maybe we would hold something in here. 2050 is right here. We've bounced around there. There's the bottom of 20. But what does it hold? It holds nothing. So we tried to go long early, then long again, before eventually giving it up right now. And Arun's already talked about it. If you have the right read, that's the most important thing. But on AAL today, we traded the earnings. We thought it was a great report, but the market doesn't want to go up. So if you're not trading the blue chip stocks, it's going to be very, very hard, to look at a name and say, I want to be long. In a pressured environment, the stocks are going to go down. The best thing to do would to trade, a name that's actually making money, or look at an ETF that sort of holds all of the airlines. Don't just trade the weakest name because it's up. AAL gave back half of its move already today.
Yeah, my approach to looking at earnings is always to look at the daily before we get to earnings. I'm going to use Tesla as a great example, by the way. So we come to the daily on Tesla. We know Tesla already reported, so this works out. We come to the daily, we drop the lines. Where can this thing potentially go with blowout earnings, or even worst case scenario, it gets destroyed to the downside? We're looking at 970. I'm just kind of working the daily here. It's been consolidating around this 970, or not, the lows have been around 970 to the bottom. Okay, we'll drop the 970. There could be some support here around the 925. Be aware of that. 850 is going to be the support level I would use through all of that, through 900. And then on the top end, you can argue, hey, 1100, because 1075 going back to the 6th and the 7th of April, there's been somewhat a small little gap down there through there. So 1075 through 1100 could be a problem. And then, of course, you got that 1250 up top, right? That's what you deal with. You come into the day, you draw those lines up ahead of time, and then you deal with earnings after. If it gets into any one of those areas, regardless of what the earnings is, if it gets into any one of those areas and it starts to look like it wants to turn, at that point, you go for the shot in that direction. And what does Tesla do? Starts up at 1075, starts to look like it wants to turn. Market goes on a nosedive to the downside. And Tesla, what does that do? Around that 1075, it starts to stall out. Pre-market move attempt north of 80 failed. attempt again going into the open, and we got as high as 90, failed, and then you just see what happens, right? So you just drop the lines ahead of time, be prepared for every possible scenario. I mean, in terms of support and resistance, I mean, you can't catch them all, but at least draw every possible scenario, and then you know what to do if it ever got into any one of those areas. So that's my approach when it comes to earnings. Of course, as you guys know, I don't trade Tesla at these price points, but that's what I would use for any other stock that was in a tradable range.
Some of the biggest names still to come in this earnings reporting season. Great points, great ideas there, guys, for trading earnings. So many opportunities right now.